Hello, everyone. I'm going to present you our study about cognitive and behavioral effects of the first quarantine imposed in spring 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic in people living with mild cognitive impairment and dementia. According to our research hypothesis, we expected that older adults with mild cognitive impairment and dementia would have increased anxiety, depression, as well as behavioral disorders, and also decreased cognition and impaired functionality, because the large majority of previous findings show that this kind of participants reported decreased levels of cognitive performance and also increased behavioral disturbances, and mainly anxiety and depression. At first, we recruited participants who came in Greek Alzheimer Association in 2018 and had 2 consecutive follow-up assessments. Our participants met the eligibility criteria, which were in line with DSM-5, whereas all our studies participants took part in non-pharmacological interventions and received telehealth support. And here you can see the neuropsychological tests administered in those with mild cognitive impairment and also dementia, mild and moderate stages. In total, we recruited 407 participants. Here you can see some small details about their age, mean age, and the mean education level. And after the data collection, we recreated repeated measures ANOVA in order to see any differences between the 2 groups of our study across the 3 conditions. Additionally, in order to estimate whether COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown measures imposed affected their performance, we calculated the deterioration rate 1 and 2. In order to calculate the deterioration 1, we subtracted the records of each test in 2019 from 2018. This is the deterioration rate 1. And in order to calculate the D2, we subtracted the records of its tests in 2020 from those in 2019. So according to our research hypothesis, we expected to find that the D2 would be worse, probably due to the COVID-19 pandemic. After repeating the repeated measures ANOVA between the 2 conditions, D1 and D2, across the 2 groups of our study, we saw that the D2 was worse in 3 tests: the Ray auditory verbal learning tests and the 3 subtests which we took into account in the current analysis. The second test is the verbal fluency, and specifically the phonological subtests. And the third test is FOCUS, which measures some aspects of independent living, specifically the ability to make phone calls, to buy the everyday living goods, and so on. Except from these 3 tests, no other differences were found in cognition, test measuring cognition, affective tests, and also the MPI test. In order to see if the worst performance in these 3 tests was affected due to the negative effect that in general older adults reported during and after the pandemic, we created 3 path models so that we could predict which is the main reason of this worse performance in these 3 tests. As you can see here, the diagnostic group was the large predictor, and it's worth mentioning that GDS did not affect this performance in Ray auditory verbal learning test, FOCUS, and also phonological fluency test across the 3 conditions of our sample. So according to the results, it seems that verbal memory, verbal fluency, and daily functionality was affected after the pandemic, but it was not due to the pandemic, but due to the disease progress. So we could not see, we cannot say that the lockdown measures imposed and the quarantine measures affected the performance in these 3 tests. One possible explanation could be that all the beneficiaries of our study participated in non-pharmacological interventions from our center, and therefore this kind of support, which was also in line with the findings from the previous studies, was the main reason for these results. Many details you can see also in our published paper. Thank you very much for your attention.